I was walking Butch down the dock when I heard someone crying, big sobs, like something terrible had happened. I also heard a smacking sound, smack, smack, like someone being slapped. Butch stopped near the gatehouse and stuck his big German shepherd head under the dock and sniffed. He turned back to me with this puzzled look like, "Who's that?" Fortunately, he didn't start barking and waking everybody up. I leaned over the edge and looked down. I couldn't see well because it was dark and shadowy under the dock, but it looked like a girl was stuck in the mud. Then I saw her tail. It was big, green, and scaly like a fish, and it was flopping up and down, making the smacking noise. I guess I was in shock or something, because I didn't even think it could be a hoax, like an actress who puts on a mermaid tail for a movie. I should have thought, this is completely crazy. I'm looking at a mermaid. But instead, my first thought, after I realized it was a mermaid, was, how did she get blue hair? As far as I was concerned, mermaids were like fairies and elves and Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, stuff made up by grown-ups so that they could sell movies and toys. At least, that's what my dad told me one night when he was pretty drunk. But there she was, and she was trapped. Her tail was tangled in some ropes hanging under the dock, and the tide must have gone out real fast, leaving her stuck in the mud. Last month, a harbor seal got caught the same way. When she saw me, she stopped crying and waved for help. I could see her hands clearly. I wondered, how did she get red nail polish? She didn't speak, but she made musical noises and pointed towards the bay. "I'll have to get somebody to help you," I told her. I guess she didn't want anyone else seeing her, because she shook her head, grunted, and pointed at me. It was as if she was saying, "Nobody else, you." That was going to be a problem, because the guy who delivered newspapers would arrive soon. And after that, the early risers on the dock would be up, like Kay and the Baron. Butch didn't know what to make of her. He held his head at an angle and kept sniffing the air. I wasn't sure what to do either. I just stood there watching her tail flop in the mud as she tried to free herself. "You ought to stop that," I said, pointing to her tail. "You're going to wake everybody up." She lowered her tail to the ground, using her hands to stay upright in the mud. In order to set her free, somebody was going to have to walk under the dock, untangle the ropes, lift her up, and carry her to the water. It was way beyond what I could do. "Can't you talk to the fishes and stuff?" I asked. "Get help from the seals?" She shook her head, and I saw her ears. They were pointed, sticking out of her long blue hair. I looked around the dock for something that I could use. The Collie twins had a really long pole with a big hook for pulling trash out of the bay. I took it from their boat and looked around for something else. I knew Baron Vandergut had some rope on his motorboat, but that was out of the question because I'd have to wake him to get it. Then I saw the hose in front of Alice the activist's houseboat. I pulled one end of the hose down the dock and hung it over the side. The mermaid couldn't reach it at first, so I swung it back and forth, and finally she grabbed on. "Tie it around your waist," I said. She did, making a big loop. I leaned over with the pole, and after a few tries, I untangled the ropes. Then I ran back to the other end of the hose and tried to pull it. At first, it wouldn't budge. I struggled, holding onto the railing and getting a big splinter in my thumb. Finally, it moved, and I was able to reel in the hose until the mermaid was directly below us, where there was enough water for her to swim. She untied herself and looked at me like I was her big hero.